Hello, everyone. We're starting the session. Excited to start with Rohit and Prince from and love to start this session with everyone. Excited to see what's going to happen today, and we're having an in-person session in Bangalore. Excited for everything. Yeah, I'd love to give the floor to Rohit for introduction. And yeah.
Thanks a lot, Kuno. And excited to be here. I'm not sure, I cannot see people because I'm not on Discord, but hope everyone can see me. And I guess some of the people are here only. So great. Today's session is about what to build on Starknet. So even before we go into that, I think the logical question is, why build on Starknet? So before I start, it is going to be a very casual session. Like I'm just going to go through few things, why build on Starknet and what are the opportunities to build on Starknet. And then we can basically go into question and answers. And I have Prince and Yash with me as well, sitting here alongside with me to basically guide you and to help me show what we want to show today. So why build on Starknet? First, and I think the biggest reason is Starknet supports high computation. Why it matters? Because on blockchains, today we build simpler applications because we have a limitation of gas. So if you do a lot of computation in your smart contract on Ethereum or other layer ones, the contracts can turn out of gas. As a result, you cannot build complex protocols or complex applications. Some of the example could be like options protocol, or like a credit scoring protocol, or like games. All of these things might require high computation. It needs to consume a lot of data. It needs to compute that data and then basically process that data. The second reason is cheapest transaction costs. So ultimately, whatever we are building, it's for the retail users. It's for the users. We want to build things. We want to take Web3 to the rest of the world. Rest of the world means billions of users. So Starknet enables cheapest transaction cost because of Starks, which is like the proofs Starknet use. So it is fit for mass users. It is fit for it opens up use cases which are best fit for mass users or retail users. The third reason is security. So all blockchains have these issues of blockchain trilemma, where if you can basically scale one or two properties, two out of three properties at a time, that is scalability, security, and decentralization. So you, like most of the blockchains which we see today, which have low transaction or high transaction throughput, like Solana or Polygon, they all compromise on decentralization. So on Solana, number of nodes, number of validators, number of miners, all of that will be significantly lower than on Ethereum. So Starknet uses Stark proofs, which basically provides computational integrity. As a result, you do not rely on high number of nodes or high number of validators for the transactions, for the consensus. Instead, you rely on the math. So as a result, it also produces highest security. That is important for many applications, like for an example, decentralized financial applications or identity. Then it enables privacy. So you can use layer 3, which is basically you can build something on top of the Starknet, which is the layer 2, and keep your layer 3 privacy focused. As a result, you can basically explore privacy preserved applications like identity, maybe reputation. It might also unlock many enterprise use cases. Enterprise doesn't want to leak their data to the public blockchain domain. So an enterprise can run their ecosystem in a layer 3, and that way, like, they can keep the privacy preserved. It is scalable. So in most blockchains, as number of transactions increases, ultimately all blockchains suffer with clogging. So like even in case of Polygon, for an example, not long ago, there was this one game launched, which got pretty popular, and suddenly the gas fees were in terms of 500 guays on Polygon. So even though it's a side chain, even though it is run by very small number of validators, even after that, it got clocked because most of the blockchains scale linearly. But in case of Starknet, like it scales exponentially. So more the number of transactions, the proof size doesn't expand much. So even if you are doing 10 to the power 2 in terms of transactions, it is only increasing 2 or 3 times in terms of the size of the proof. As a result, the transaction costs are not scaling linearly. As a result, the more the transaction you have on Starknet, the less the cost per transaction you will have. And last and not the least is flexibility. So when Ethereum was built, Solidity had a lot of constraints because of all these reasons, because Solidity need to keep performance in mind because it was doing computation as well on layer 1. So Cairo is built for keeping performance in mind. So it doesn't adapt the same limitations of Solidity. As a result, you can do much more complex thing. It basically is much more flexible in building stuff compared to like Solidity. So does anyone have any question here? Otherwise, like let's get to what are the opportunities to build on Starknet. Cool. So let's move. So what to build? Good thing is Starknet is pretty new. As a result, there are so many opportunities, so many things which are clear that it needs to be built. Sometimes it might not be clear, like you will figure it out, like what you can build just because you see the possibilities. So the best thing is like just get into it and you will start seeing the possibilities. Some of the opportunities we have seen by building on Starknet for a long period of time are going to be listing below. So we have been building on Starknet since probably last September. And all of these lists are like from our own experience. So it doesn't mean it basically compiles all the opportunities that is possible. So DeFi, I guess like nothing can function without finance in any blockchain ecosystem. So we need DeFi, but better. For an example, there are many applications which were not possible on layer 1s, which can be possible on layer 2s. On-chain order book DEX is one of that example. So nobody has done on-chain order books so far, at least not we are aware of. So that is something that could be possible probably using Starknet. On-chain option calculations. It was not possible because on-chain option calculation require huge computation. And as we talked about, Starknet is built for computation. You can build like complex model to basically do calculation for options like Black-Scholes. Computationally intensive yield or trading strategies. So if you all are familiar with Yearn Finance or many staking protocols on layer 1, they are very simple from modeling perspective. They do not compute a lot of data. Again, because you cannot do it on layer 1, it will become gas intensive and the strategies will be not so profitable. But here, like because Starknet can handle a lot of computation, you can build more complex model. You can create trading strategies, very sophisticated trading strategies or yield strategies, which was not possible on layer 1. So that is something you can again build on Starknet. Advanced payment infrastructure. So like finance just started. We see many applications like if we think about Web 2 world, there are many solutions might require subscription kind of things. Many solutions might require micropayments. If there is a fintech app, maybe it requires settlement, like very low cost settlement kind of things. So these are the things that could be built on Starknet. Again, because of two reasons. One, or a couple of reasons. One, like you can create better accounts using Starknet. You can do much more complex calculation on Starknet, and the transaction costs are much cheaper. Similarly, credit scoring is one. So what credit scoring unlocks is, so first of all, like to create credit scoring, what is credit scoring? You again consume a lot of data and then you output, okay, like what this data means. For an example, I can see your on-chain activity. I can like pull up all of your layer 1 on-chain activity, compute it, and then give you like a credit score, like this wallet has this kind of a credit score. So now this requires huge type of computation. So that is something that could be built on Starknet. Now, once you build the credit scoring, like you can enable P2P lending, where I can just give loan to someone based on their credit scoring. So like today we see Aave or compound kind of vaults. This can enable like much more number of vaults depending on what is a credit score for some parties or some protocols. Similarly, like under collateralized lending could be possible because credit score could be possible. NFT derivatives. Again, NFTs are something which might how will you enable NFTs in the hands of many more people? Because if you think about something like board apps or BAYC, all of those are very expensive and in the hands of tens of thousands of people only. So the only way to get exposure to that to mass user is if you create derivatives for them. And if you want to create derivative, it again requires a lot of computation. So that is again something you can build on Starknet. Similarly, risk protocol. So what happens in DeFi is, let's say you provide liquidity on a Uniswap LP pool, and you get LP token as a result. Now there might be some other protocol like Harvest Finance, where you can deposit your Uniswap position, and you can maybe borrow some stable coins, or you can utilize that to further optimize your strategy. So every LP token has a different risk profile. Like ETH USDC LP token is different than Curve USDC LP token. So a risk protocol can enable like more different kind of protocols, because now if you can parameterize what is the risk of each LP token, then you can like increase the utility of all these LP tokens. Similarly, like debt positions as well. So this is like DeFi, and there could be much more applications. Like this is something like we have listed down. So these are the things which are possible. Similarly, one of the biggest thing we have seen with Starknet is account abstraction. What is account abstraction? So in case of Ethereum, the accounts are externally owned account. It's like an account where you always have to initiate an action to complete something. So the accounts are not really smart. It's very plain. They are not secure. If you lose your backup keys, you lose the accounts. If you lose your seed phrases, you lose the account. If somebody get access to your computer, you lose your account. There are so many issues with that. If we want to take Web3 to like billions of people, it cannot happen in the way today we have accounts. So account abstraction enables smart accounts where the account itself is a smart contract. When account itself is a smart contract, then accounts become programmable. So that again unlocks multiple use cases. For an example, you can build conditional multisigs where you can say, okay, if let's say I am doing a $10,000 worth of transaction, higher than $10,000, then these 4 keys need to sign that transaction. And those 4 keys, like 2 you can keep, maybe 1 you give to your parents, 1 you give to your friend, or maybe some institution. Similarly, social recovery. Even if you lose access to your seed phrase and you lose your account, you can inbuilt make this logic that if I do not access my account for the continuously for 7 days, then it will enable something like where I am able to access my account with a different key. So like a social recovery, or you can create like, I'm giving my account key to 5 different people. As long as 4 of those says yes, I should be able to recover my account. That's like social recovery. Similarly, like in-game session management. This is something like Argent is already working on as well. But this is something very new and has a lot of potential. So what happens is, like, since Starknet enables huge computation, this is the first time we are seeing on-chain games where games are running a logic on the chain itself. Now, if you are playing a game which is completely on chain, you might need to do continuous action. So let's say like you are doing a battle and suddenly you need to access some of your powers, which are maybe like some kind of NFTs. So every time you access those, you need to approve a transaction. So that kills the user behavior. So in-game session management is like you create a session key. Now you give that session key to this game, and it automatically approving these kind of transactions. So you do not have to like go through the bad user experience when you are playing an on-chain game. So it basically opens up a whole different world altogether for gaming. Mobile wallets. So like so far we haven't seen great mobile experiences, and this could be the first time like you can create amazing mobile experiences, maybe using the layer 3 on top of layer 2, which can enable, like, again, all the accounts could be smart contract accounts where you can have 2FA kind of methodologies involved, where you can have let's say some of the fintech features, which like one of that could be SIPs, systematic investing. Like every month, I want to invest $10 into Bitcoin, things like that. So you can inbuilt all of that into a mobile wallet. So you can create smart mobile wallets. 2FAs are something like we all are very used to of, and these are required from security perspective. So again, just like I said about conditional multisig, 2FA could be like one of that application where you can create for high value transaction, I need to approve the same transaction from two different keys. And the second key only works if the first key already gave the approval, something like that. So I'm going to stop for a minute and wait for answers if there are any questions. Cool. So somebody just shared Fossil seems like promising solution for trustless on-chain historical data. Also strong Oracle network. What solutions are you excited about on Starknet to integrate? So we'll come to this question later. Let us go through these things, then we'll come to this question. So
there's a question on Q&A, Rohit.
Okay.
You can just look
at sure. I heard a theory a while ago that if you execute multiple transactions that change one particular storage with Cairo, if the transaction is included in one block, you can pay transaction fee only once. What do you think about it? Prince, do you want to answer that?
Yeah. So this is not a theory. This is actual. This is the actual way in which Cairo works. Right now, the calculation of transaction cost, the gas fees, doesn't include this. It includes each change that you make to the storage. But as we progress, the gas fee calculation will be refunded if you keep changing the same storage in single block. So yes, what RS said is true, and Starknet will be implementing a refund mechanism for the gas fee for this.
So give up. I hope this answers your question. Feel free to ask a follow-up question and I'll take it ahead. Okay, how do I minimize this? I do not know. Kuno, how do I minimize this question tab? Okay, here. Cool. Yeah, infra. Okay, I'm just going to chat as well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So infra tools. So there is a lot of infra that we are curious about, which we think will change the future, which will again push the boundaries. One of the most exciting thing for us is the ZK bridges. So we are going to live in a multi-chain world that is basically obvious by this point of time. But in a multi-chain world, bridges are going to play a huge role. So a lot of security, a lot of scalability will also depend on these bridges. So today we see like different kind of bridges. For an example, in optimistic rollups, the bridges are there, the native bridges, which canonical bridges, which are built by the blockchains themselves. But in case of optimistic rollup, if you want to exchange messages or if you want to exchange assets, you need to wait for a week as the withdrawal time to have the finality. So as a result, most of the bridges on the optimist side, they rely on liquidity providers. So they create like instant withdrawal where some other party or an institution is taking that 1 week kind of a risk and giving you the asset on the other chain. And basically that person will claim the assets once the assets are released on the native bridges. Why that is required? Because optimistic rollups, for an example, rely on game theory, and they need this time period to rely on the result of that game theory. That they need that time for honest validators to come and basically challenge any frauds or any wrongdoings. In case of ZK, since we rely on math, all ZK rollups can create bridges where, let's say ZK Sync, which uses snarks as the proofs, and Starknet, which uses Starks as the proof. So both the blockchains can accept each other's ZK proofs or validity proofs. As a result, you can build better bridges, which are truly permissionless. It doesn't require any kind of multi-sig. They are fast finality bridges because now you are not relying on any kind of finality because you are completely relying on math. And as a result, again, like you can create a world where you can create better multi-chain applications without basically dealing in latency and these kind of issues. Similarly, oracles, we believe better oracles could be built using ZK. Again, in case of Chainlink rely on game theory. Here, like you can come up with solutions where you rely on myth to basically prove who submitted what kind of data, and to prove like if someone submitted wrong kind of data and basically remove them from the equation, all these kind of things. So completely permissionless oracles could be built on using Starknet or using Starks. Similarly, indexers. So indexers are used to store blockchain data off chain for quick wherever you need latency, because if you are trying to fetch data directly from the blockchain, it might require some time. It might include some latency. For an example, if you, let's say you have a yield website, or for an example, in case of Jedi Swap, we want to show what is your liquidity position, how much you have earned in fees, or what is the APY of a particular liquidity pool. To calculate that, we need to know, okay, in last 24 hours, how much trading has been done, or how much TVL has increased. So all these data somebody has to store off chain so that it could be fetched quickly, and then it can be used to create dashboards, to use queries, or in the front end to show like dollar values or different kind of metrics to the end users. Similarly, random number generators are something which opens up multiple use cases, especially in case of games. All the games require some randomization, and random number generators can basically enable games to perform in a different way or create game logics in a better way. Yeah, so let's check if there is any question. Cool.
There is a question about
Fossil?
About the record.
Okay. Yeah, so there was a question about this. Fossil seems like promising solution for trustless on-chain historical data. Exactly. So yes, Fossil is doing exactly that. Similarly, Stock, there are, I think there is Pontis as well, who is creating an Oracle network. I think there is Stark Indexer, who is creating an indexer. There is Stark Oracle as well, something like that. I'm not sure about the name, but yeah, all these solutions are basically really useful. We personally are working with some of them. So right now we are working with Stark Indexer for the indexing of the data. Are we using any kind of Oracle today? Right now we are not using any kind of Oracle.
Jedi Swap doesn't really need oracles at this moment, but the applications that will be built on top of Jedi Swap will definitely need some. So some of the applications right now are using Pontis, because Pontis has made most progress right now. But we are very excited about Fossil, because if we can enable reading of on-chain data directly via the contract, that will be good.
Cool. So I hope that answers your question, Matthew, and feel free to do a follow-up if you have any other question. So moving on, the next thing we really want to see getting built is DAO Tools. Before that, let me just quickly check okay, cool, Matthew got the answer. So in DAO Tools, like Starknet is very, very new. And literally when we started building on Starknet, there was nothing like that. There was no math libraries. Like I remember there was a time we were not able to launch AMM because we were looking for this functionality of square root function. So all these things have been built throughout that time, and we are still very early. So we need a lot of tooling, which will make development faster, easier, iterative. And basically that will produce much better applications, much secure applications, much more, you can say, user-friendly application. So some of the dev tools we think will be really helpful is one of them is decompiler. What is a decompiler? So if you have used Etherscan, in Etherscan, like it decompiles your smart contract, and it gives you a beautiful view of all the functions that are there in your smart contract. So that is something which is missing. It is not existing in Voyager today, which is where you see all the data, which is like the Etherscan for Starknet. So decompiler is something which is missing in the space right now, and it will be really helpful. Similarly, like standard dev frameworks like Foundry. So what dev frameworks does is like it accelerates the setup process. It accelerates the dev adoption processes. So it plays a huge role. So one of the example is like Hardhead, for an example. Hardhead played a big role in Solidity development as well. Similarly, Foundry is playing a big role, especially in case of Rust or like Solana project. It has played a big role. And now we have Foundry as the biggest framework in case of Solidity as well. Similarly, forking. So forking is a process or like a practice where you want to test your protocol, your dApps on the real on-chain data, which is there. But if you want to test it on-chain, like it will be really slow. So forking is like you are actually forking the data from on-chain to your local machine, and then you are basically running all the tests on that actual data. So forking is really useful for testing, for figuring out bugs, for figuring out like any kind of vulnerabilities. On-chain data reading. This is something which is becoming really big. Like it is one of the hot discussion, where what you can do is you read data from layer 1 directly into a layer 2 contracts. So right now, like for an example, for many things, you might rely on oracles, but there might be a lot of data which is already there on layer 1 or in a smart contract of layer 1. And you want to build an application which is integrating with both or maybe in siloed, but it relies on that data which is on the layer 1. So if the smart contract on layer 2 can read data directly from layer 1, it can also enable a lot of use cases. This is something like where I think a lot of people are trying to put their efforts in. Similarly, the next big thing is security audit tools. Like, not sure if how many people are familiar with Slither. So Slither is like a audit tool which basically runs automated testing. It basically shows where can be, for an example, like out of gas issues or like different kind of variables which might not be there, which should not be there, or like sandwich attack possibilities, all these kind of things. So it really improves your code quality. Every security audit firm, which includes Trail of Bits or QuantStamp, all of them first basically run your program through these audit tools. So this is something which will be required in Cairo, and probably will have much more application in Cairo, because in Cairo, since it opens up whole different design space, it also will open up much more code complexities. So these tools can also be like in various different forms compared to like in layer 1s. Similarly, test coverage is something which is missing today in Cairo. So if you have used Hardhat or Truffle or like any of the frameworks in Solidity, and if you run like for how many functions I have written the test, it tells you like if you have 60% test coverage or 98% test coverage, and then it gives you that inspiration, that goal that I need to reach to 100%. So it creates that good practices in development. So test coverage is completely missing today in case of Cairo. So if that will be there, again, that will improvise the code quality overall into the different tabs. So again, I'm going to pause and check questions, and keep shooting questions in Q&A, and I'll keep checking them. So when should I think the transaction is as a completion? If you look at Bitcoin, it's almost perfect completion if the block is accepted and 6 more blocks are entered behind it. So I think that's a great question. In case of layer 2s, you can consider finality is done as soon as your layer 2 block has been synced on layer 1. Now, the time for that might vary. Right now, it could be slower, because what you are ultimately doing is you are grouping a bunch of transactions, and you are then making a single transaction on layer 1. So whole your cost is a function of how many transactions you have on layer 2 when you are deploying that as a block on layer 1. So more transaction you have on layer 2, you can keep reducing this frequency of syncing the blocks on layer 1. But having like answering your question, I think it's pretty similar to Bitcoin. Like as soon as the block is synced on Ethereum, like you can consider that as completed, and you can sometimes wait for 6 blocks, you can sometimes wait for 2 blocks, depending on your application.
Yeah. So to answer that in little bit more detail, right now the sequencer syncs the blocks every 2 hours on mainnet. This will reduce, as Rohit said, that this will keep on reducing as we get more and more transactions. But for all development and practical purposes, you can assume that as soon as you get the status of the transaction as accepted on L2, so there are 4 or 5 different transaction status on Starknet, As soon as you see accepted on L2, you can consider it complete for all practical purposes.
So Juvuk, let us know if that answers your question. There are some comments in chat as well. Okay, do you know what happened with DAMM, like the one that bridges L1 liquidity to L2 unfragmentedly? I think this is a research area. This has not been explored much. StarkWare released a blog and probably like some content on this long time ago, but I don't think there has been a lot of work into this. Having said that, like we ourselves are very interested in exploring DAMMs. Foundry Starknet integration would be huge. Yes, definitely.
And kudos to Protostar team. They are following the guidelines which Foundry has set up. So even if we don't get direct Foundry integration, we should have a parity in Protostar also.
Cool. So moving ahead, we are talking about ZK rollups. Technically, like Starknet is a validity rollup, but I guess we need to consider privacy. So far, privacy has not been explored much. And I think that's where layer 3 could be a game changer, because Starknet is a public blockchain. And if you want to create something private, then you might need to create something entirely different, because then probably you are not interacting in a composability manner, or maybe you are, we'll see. But there are a lot of opportunities in a privacy or layer 3 focused applications as well. Some of the applications we have thought about is like neobanks. So if you are familiar with neobanks are basically banks on top of traditional banks. So let's say you have your Wells Fargo. So Wells Fargo might be very slow in servicing. Wells Fargo might be giving you very low interest rate. Some other fintech firm or startup can come up. They basically tie up with Wells Fargo and give you a better account, better digital experience, better interest rate, better credit card functionalities, and all of that. So that is like the neobank. I'm not sure like what is the full form of neobank? Do you know? I think it comes from new. Yeah, new style. It comes from new. So following the same philosophy, you can create neobanks on top of DeFi applications. What it could mean is like, so we talked about a bunch of concepts like just before. Account abstraction was one of them, and layer 3 is one of them. So what it means is like, let's say you are creating a fintech application which enables people to take their salary directly into your layer 3 focused fintech app, and then that app continuously deposit that money into a yield aggregator, or like, let's say it enables you to swap your assets, invest 10% of your salary into Ether or something like that. So here, like you will be using account abstraction in some case. You will be using layer 3 because you are basically not putting every single transaction on layer 2. You are waiting, and once you have enough number of transactions, then you are putting those transactions as a bulk onto the layer 2. So now suddenly you reduce gas cost even further. So it becomes like a gasless or like truly zero cost experience for the end users. So for end users, these neobank style apps could be really, really huge. You can consider wallets as part of like neobanks as well. But I guess today wallets are not as expanded as neobanks could be. Similarly, like we have thought about like applications like DocuSign. If you are familiar with DocuSign, it is used for signing agreements digitally, completely digitally. In this case, like you are relying on the company DocuSign to like have the digital ledger, have that audit trail, and basically all the validity. So you can probably create something like that using ZK, a better DocuSign using ZK. Similarly, like card games. So card games requires a lot of secrecy. Like imagine you are playing a poker. You do not want to show others like what cards do you have. So this requires privacy. So things like that, again, could be built using Starknet or on top of Starknet using some form of privacy features or layer 3. So let's check the question one again. A question from Zeni, do you know what happened with, this we have already answered, that we do not know much about DAMMs. What is the state of DAMMs? I think it's still a research area and a concept. Matthew asks, would L3 privacy be an issue in the eyes of governments, like Monero getting banned? technically, like, I do not think I'm the right person to answer that. And I think it's a very generalized question. Thing to ask is like, can something bad happen? Like, are you holding custody of the funds, or like, are you holding some kind of information which, or can people do some kind of bad behaviors, or is there any kind of permission layer as well? Depending on these things, it might depend. Like, maybe it could not be generalized, but having said that, it definitely could be an issue. So it might depend on application to application. All right. Do you know? Okay, cool. Do you know any project working on DID or zero knowledge based KYC on Starknet already? Today, I have spoken to one person who was exploring something like that. What they were using was like some kind of signing mechanism from the website. So let's say you have a government website where you log in, and then it creates like an access token, or it creates some kind of like web keys. I'm not sure like which kind of token was that person talking about. But using that, he was trying to apply the concept of ZK, where he was saying, okay, this token has been actually created by this government website. And as a result, this person is a KYC user. And he was applying this concept to something like, for an example, let's say you are a protocol and you want to airdrop your tokens to many people, but you want to airdrop your token to one person only, like, because one person can have 10 different accounts. So you just want to airdrop him once. So something like this could be an application of that, where he just uses, let's say, coinbase.com, where you just log in on Coinbase, and using that, it creates a proof, and that proof basically shows the integrity that this, if this proof was accepted, that means this was created by a user who already KYC'd on Coinbase. So something, these kind of applications might be possible, and I have spoken to one or two people on that. All right, moving on. Another biggest area in case of Starknet is gaming. Gaming is very special because I do not see any other ecosystem where games are built on chain. When I say games are built on chain, what do I mean is that the game logic itself is running on chain. In most other chain, including Solana or Polygon, what happens is the assets are on chain. The game itself is like a very centralized game. It's running on an AWS server. So why is that? Again, because it requires huge computation, which Solana or Polygon or any other blockchain cannot handle. And that's exactly what Starknet is optimized for, computation. So you can actually build or run the game logic on Starknet. So as a result, the gaming space will become bigger and bigger on Starknet. That means it opens up possibilities from different angles. It opens up possibilities from building games itself. It opens possibilities from gaming tool side. It probably opens possibilities from NFT tooling side. So what kind of gaming tools? It could be libraries, like if you have used Unreal Engine or Unity or these kind of gaming engine, what they provide is like graphical libraries. They provide you physics, chemistry, math libraries. So the same things can basically be built on Starknet. So physics, chemistry, math libraries, and Topology is like one who has worked on like physics, for an example, on Starknet. Similarly, there can be a lot of GameFi tooling. So once you build composable games with the ownership economy being in mind, then basically it will bring the finance angle as well into the games. As a result, you will need different kind of financial tooling within the games as well. This can again go back to the same kind of things, like maybe some kind of credit scoring for gaming assets or for game players. It will definitely include AMMs, lending, renting of different assets, these things like that. Account abstractions, as we talked about, like in session keys, which basically gives permission automatically for a gaming session. So like whole account abstraction can open up a new design space. Similarly, NFT tools, like you can rent your NFT to someone to play a game, and then that person pays you 0.1 Ether for using your NFT for, let's say, 10 blocks, and then that NFT return backs to your account automatically, something like that. Similarly, NFT marketplaces. So I'm going to check the question again. Is there a Unity SDK available for Starknet? Not yet. I think there was some conversation happening, but I'm 100% sure that there is nothing that exists yet. Cool. Should we move ahead? Cool. And then there are DAO tools. I think that's the last thing we have in this slide on. Okay. I think my screen is frozen here. I'm not sure why is that. Kuno, can you tell me which screen are you seeing?
Pardon?
Which screen are you seeing? Can you show me? Can you tell me what is the title of the screen you are seeing?
It says DAO Tools.
Cool, cool. So it's just frozen on my screen then. All right. So DAO tooling is another area where we think like not all of that probably could be built on Starknet directly, but maybe some angles could be used of Starks or layer 3s or Starknet. So DAO tooling will require like SBTs for an example. So many like Jedi Swap is a completely community-driven protocol. It's a community-driven project. What it means is there is no team in Jedi Swap. Everything is done by independent contributors by the community. So by doing that, what we are also creating at the same time is like we are trying to create a contributor measurement system where we are measuring how much one person is contributing to the project. This includes all kind of different fields: development, design, marketing, analytics, all these kind of things. So now we want to have that proof on chain, like this person contributed to Jedi Swap in dev, in design. So we want to have that on chain. And at the same time, you want to have all these as reputation. Reputation is something you cannot sell to other person. So SBTs are the solutions for these kind of things. Now, if you want to create SBTs for your contributors, if you do it on a layer 1, it could be very costly. It might be costly both in terms of like minting, but also in terms of computation. Like maybe you want to create SBTs by having some kind of computation from Discord data or different kind of data. So this requires like a lot of data computation. As a result, Starknet might be a great platform to create SBTs, which can represent reputation or credentials or identity. Similarly, there can be social protocols or applications, just like Lens protocol is there, which is basically trying to create a social social platforms like Twitter style platform or like Instagram style platform, where user are the owner of the data they are creating. User are the owner of let's say who follows them. They can actually take it somewhere else. So it is created on Lens is created on Polygon because of the same reason of the gas cost. So probably like that is something that could be built in a better way on Starknet or a layer 3 on Starknet. Similarly, there could be communication platforms. So I think all Web3 today run on Discord. So Discord is the biggest centralized platform today. Maybe we can create something like a better Discord, which is again built on layer 3. I'm sure layer 2 will not be a solution for something like Discord, because for Discord, you need even much lesser transaction cost. So maybe security is not that important, but scalability is much more important. So as a result, probably you can create a better Discord using layer 3 or something like that. Similarly, forums where you are discussing different kind of things. So forums are centralized today. It could be like very decentralized or permissionless. I met a team during Dev Connect in the last Starknet hackathon in Amsterdam who was working on something like that. So I'm sure there could be multiple versions of forums. Similarly, GitHub, like everyone is running their code on GitHub and GitHub is centralized. So can we create something which is basically better than GitHub, which is at least less centralized than GitHub? Different kind of governance tools. Then maybe like even video tools. So all DAOs have this limitation, like all of us are interacting with each other on Discord. We can maybe create some fun tooling on top of it, like where everyone can see a movie together or everyone can join some particular call together based on what tokens they have or what NFTs they have. So maybe something like that. There is that could be also some kind of an application where either layer 3 or Starknet might be of use. So again, I'm going to check on question. Cool. I think there is no question. All right. So these are the things to build on Starknet. And then like how to start. So I think it's pretty simple. To start anything, like you have to just start trying first. So start playing with the Cairo playground. You can find it on Starknet website. I think Starknet website is starknet.io. And then like just join communities where other builders are building, where people are ready to help. Some of the best communities where you will find a lot of support is first, obviously, Starknet Discord or Telegram. You'll find all the builders building on Starknet there. Jedi Swap Discord is also like one of the best way, because again, Jedi Swap is not just an AMM, it's a whole community of builders who want to take Web3 to the rest of the world. So as a result, this community can help you not just with tech, but maybe also in terms of exposure, in terms of marketing, or in terms of product iteration as well. Similarly, Matchbox DAO is like more specialized towards gaming ecosystem. So if you are someone who want to build a game or gaming tool, like you should definitely be in Matchbox DAO Discord. So like join these communities, definitely ask fundamental questions of what you are building and start getting answers for those questions. Like never go blindly into something, ask the hard questions for what you are building and start getting answers for those questions. And it's not necessary you should have all the answers. You can always ask other people for opinion. It might take some long time as well. Basically never feel shy to get help, and Starknet community is really strong, and you will get all kind of help, like whatever you need, both in terms of brainstorming, in terms of tech, and all kind of support. And as I said, like the first step is just start building. So this is it. This is what we had. Are there any other questions? Feel free to drop them in. Kuno, I will give the mic to you.
Wonderful. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. I think we can open up the Q&A sessions for a bit. I know that throughout the presentation, Rohit, you did a wonderful job answering people's questions throughout. So, but I just want to open up a few minutes for the last few questions for the presentation, or anything that you guys want to ask Rohit. This is the time. You can either chat it on the I think the Zoom chat or the Q&A Zoom. Yeah, we'll just remain here for a bit to wait for the questions. And if there are any participants in person in New York, I know that there are a couple people who joined. If they have any in-person questions, feel free to ask in person too.
And just a quick note, like we will also be at ETH.CC in Paris, at Starknet CC, Paris Hack, all of these events. So if any one of you will be there, definitely give us a shout. Either reach out to us on Telegram or Twitter, on Discord, whatever is comfortable for you. So I think there is a question. Let us quickly check. Okay, it's not a question.
Wonderful. If there are no questions from, okay, we got a question that says, if I want to create assets only on layer 2 network Starknet, does that make sense? I'm worried because Starknet, in terms of being centralized, no worries.
So I think that's a great question. I think it definitely makes sense. And we already have applications who are Starknet native, who are not present on any kind of layer 1 as such. Like Brick is, for an example, one of that example. From the security sense, although it is centralized, I think we all have to take a leap of faith here. I think the biggest centralized factor is the sequencer in case of Starknet, and StarkWare has communicated multiple times that it is in their roadmap, in their plan, in their high priority to decentralize the sequencer, and it should be done by end of 2023. What happens if L1 is down? Starknet is also down also. I guess if L1 is down, then we are all done. Basically, what we are talking about is if Ethereum is down, then there is no sense of layer 2s, because layer 2s rely on layer 1s for security. The only thing that can change is obviously like layer 2s can, maybe they can shift to different layer 1s as a backup. But like I'm not sure even someone has even thought about it yet. And Divuk, I hope that answered your question.
Wonderful. I think that is, oh, we have one more question from Samuel O'Kick. How easy is it to transfer an NFT from NFT to immutable X? Or from Starknet to immutable X?
I do not think that is possible because immutable X is built on StarkX, and basically there is no exchange between StarkX and Starknet as of today. Having said that, immutable X is launching on Starknet separately, as far as I know.
They're also working on a bridge.
Okay, so the immutable is working on a bridge where it will be possible to transfer asset. Is it live?
Yeah, not live.
Okay, it is not live yet.
And not just from immutable, you will be able to transfer NFT to L1 also. So they are working on a complete ecosystem.
Cool. So immutable will enable like bridging assets from immutable X to layer 1s as well. Cool. I guess there are no more questions.
Okay, I think that's that adjourns the whole session today. Thank you all, Rohit, Prince from Jedi Swap.
And we have Yash as well, and thanks to Yash as well, who also helped in this.
Yes, too. Thanks everyone for helping the presentation and helping everyone to learn more about what to build. And it's pretty much talking about, I think, all aspects of what's happening on Starknet ecosystem. So I think we've had wonderful questions. So thank you everyone for participating. And thanks everyone if they're in person in Bangalore too. And hope everyone has a wonderful day. And thank you again, Rohit and the Jedi Swap team.
Thanks a lot to you, Kunho, and Gyoza is there. Thanks a lot to you guys, and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, and if anyone's going to ECC or Stark CC, feel free to say hi to Rohit and the Jedi Swap team, or also any of us over there. We'll be over there. So excited to see everyone soon in Paris.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye-bye.